I have accomplished all of my goals in life. This was what I realised the other day when I was walking to work on a dark morning in the snow, freezing my nuts off. All the goals I had set myself when I was younger, I've now achieved. It might sound silly, but I've only ever had simple goals with two main ones standing out, and I'd like to talk about them here and offer some advice about life goals. First was to go to university, live the university life to the fullest and get a degree. Now, this was a goal I set myself after dropping out of a degree that I was studying in politics, which I began back in 2007. Back then, and maybe it's the same now, I'm not so sure, it was just expected that once you finished school, and of course you would go on to go to university. And, to study what? It doesn't actually matter, because university was meant to be this ticket to a successful future. When I had to choose my degree program, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life or, what I wanted to apply for, but as it was expected of me, I just chose the two subjects I enjoyed the most in school, and that's Japanese language and politics. I didn't get good enough grades for my first choice university, so I ended up having to move all the way across the country to a much lower ranked university. But my family couldn't be more pleased for me, since I was the first person in my whole family, and I still am, I think, to go into higher education, university that is. If they were so supportive, then, there's no way I could have made a mistake in my mind. But within the first week I was really struggling. All I wanted to do there in my free time was play video games, and I realised pretty quickly on that the Japanese language part of the degree would be way too much work for this lifestyle, so I quickly converted to just politics, which gave me a lot more free time, and, for a while, life was pretty good. I was able to somehow scrape through my first year at university and get into second year, but that's when things started really going downhill. My gaming addiction, coupled with a failing relationship, led me to cutting classes and assignments and eventually just giving up and dropping out, moving back in with my family and getting a minimum wage job in a coffee shop. The classic millennial outcome. I could have just given up there and accepted that was my life, I would just work at that minimum wage job forever and that would be it. But it just didn't feel right for me. I was sure deep down that if I just got one more chance and was able to work on a subject that I had a real passion for, then I would do the university life right the next time. This would be a new life goal, something to work towards. The only problem was the funding and the entry requirements. After a failed application for the army as a combat medic, on account of my eyesight being absolutely atrocious, I got interested in the sciences, so I studied evening classes while continuing to work my coffee shop job. The problem in the UK is you generally get a maximum of 4 years funding for most degrees, and most degrees will last for 3 years, so you have the 4th year, just in case you, say, fail a year or change your course after the first year. Now, I'd used up 2 years of funding, of government funding, so I had 2 years left. And the way it works is that any remaining funding you have is applied to your final year backwards. So in my case, they would fund the 3rd year and the 2nd year, but not the 1st year. So I needed to save up enough for my 1st year. Now, at the time, fees had just tripled in the UK, but nothing was going to stop me here. So I put in as much overtime as I could at work, and I studied with time I had left. which paid off in the end as I managed to get the grades needed for my first choice university, with more than enough money to fund it. And university this time around was absolutely incredible. I didn't spend my time locked up gaming anymore, but worked my way towards achieving a first-class degree. I was also on the rowing team and the lacrosse team, and enjoyed the social aspects to the fullest, and to be honest it was kind of overwhelming, but I'd finally achieved one of my life's goals. After completing my degree, I was offered a scholarship to study a master's degree at an even more prestigious university, which I couldn't believe at the time. All fees and accommodation were completely covered. So I moved to a new city, all by myself, without knowing anyone there, and started this postgraduate program, which went well, but I distinctively remember lying in bed one night thinking, what am I going to do next? The goal was to go to university, live the university life to the fullest, and it's all coming to an end now, and there was no plan. Somehow, I was able to find an entry-level job in my field, just a 9-to-5 job which paid well enough for me to live and save, and I was eventually able to buy a house in the city that I live in. But I never had any more goals, and this was about 10 years ago now. I never had any new goals, but before all of this, when I was still at school, I did have one life goal, and I'd only just remembered it recently, on my way to work that snowy morning. And that is that my goal was to get into a situation whereby I could work a decent 9-to-5 job that, I could tolerate. It wasn't customer service or anything. So I'd have my evenings and weekends free, just to play video games and have fun. When I made this goal, I was probably around sort of 15 or 16, going to school and working all weekends, so I had no free time. I wanted a life where I could live comfortably and have plenty of free time to do whatever I wanted to do just so badly at the time. And now here I am, at the start of a new year, having just recently realised that I've achieved all of my life goals. I went back to university, lived the university life to the fullest, and got the degree. Now I have a decent job where I live comfortably and can play video games as much as I want. The problem was, I stopped playing video games at university, when I locked in, and pretty much lost all interest in them. So in some way, what was the point? Statistically speaking though, I'm not even halfway through my life, and I've got no more life goals or nothing that I'm trying to work towards. If I talk to, let's say, work colleagues or family members about this, then I'm sure they would say, just try and find some new goals now you've achieved your previous goals, but it's not that easy to come up with new life goals to work towards. I wouldn't say that New Year's goals count either, like, losing weight or going to the gym, quitting alcohol, they are good small goals, but not something you can sort of dedicate your future towards. Now, I'm pretty content with how things are at the moment, living the loner life. No relationship or close friends, but I've started thinking recently that there has to be something else to life, something else to do. So, now, what did I learn from this pathetic story? The main takeaway is that when you make these lifelong goals, these plans for the future, it's never a bad idea to have a plan for what comes next, or at least some idea of what you'd like to do once you've accomplished your goal. In movies and shows, like TV shows, once the main goal has been achieved and everyone can finally live happily ever after, it doesn't tend to show what happens next, and I gotta say, life, it can be a lot longer than you think. Also, have a contingency plan, in case something goes wrong, like if I didn't manage to get into university the second time, or if I didn't manage to get the stable job, where would I be now? I do find that failure can be a powerful motivator, so I'm sure I'd have figured something out, but until recently I've been way too comfortable with just drifting through life. So I think I'll decide upon a new goal, or sort of goal, to start working on. And that is that I want to feel about YouTube and online content creation, be it blogs or shorts. I want to feel how I felt about getting into university the second time. I want to be able to share my experiences and thoughts on here, both past and present, and develop the skills needed to present them well. I also want to revisit video games, not in the unhealthy way when I was addicted to them at university, but to stop seeing them as a waste of time, like I have done recently. And while I'm not sure how to measure this goal, or these goals, I'm looking forward to seeing where all of this leads, and in some way it feels as though I'm already starting to achieve this goal. While my channel has no subscribers, no viewers other than myself, I find myself looking forward to the process of recording and editing these videos, putting them together and posting them. So, until next time, thanks for stopping by to listen to my story, and I hope you can start working on some goals of your own life goals.